All right, so you've been playing the guitar for 2 or 5 or 10 or maybe even 20 years, okay? You're not a beginner anymore, not even close. You know your scales, you know the pentatonic positions really, really well. Maybe you've learned cage, modes, triads, arpeggios. Learning difficult songs from some of your favorite guitar players. But when you put a backing track on or jam with some friends, it just sort of like falls flat. And that's what makes the stage so frustrating, because you know you're a better guitarist than what's coming out. You improvise, but you just can't make it happen. Let's go through the reasons that people get stuck there, and I will do my best to help you get unstuck. If you don't know, my name is Ryan Ghana. I've been helping guitar players for 20 years now, really bridge the gap between their creative ideas and what they're able to play, becoming fully fretboard fluent. If you would, please hit the subscribe and bell notification to get more videos on how to make your guitar playing better. All right, when we get stuck in that place, you know, that really stale, we always think like, oh, maybe I just need another scale, or maybe I need to fully memorize the modes, or I need more triads, or, you know, more cage, you know, whatever it is, right? But if the reason that you become stuck for years, that reason isn't that you haven't learned enough, right? What you've actually spent years trying to solve is sort of the wrong problem, because there's a massive difference between knowing a lot about guitar and being fluent on the guitar. So it's not really an information problem, another scale, right? It's a fluency problem, turning this stuff into a musical language. You know, music is a language, the guitar is just the voice that we're singing or speaking that language through. So let's switch, think about language. Imagine you're trying to learn Spanish, and I give you a list of 500 Spanish words. You memorize all of them, all right? Then I give you another 500 and another 500. Eventually, you know thousands of words, but that doesn't mean that you can walk into a bar in Mexico, sit down, and start having a conversation with somebody, because that is just the information, not the fluency of the information. And the guitar works the same way, right? The scales vocabulary, the triad, the arpeggio, the interval, that's all vocabulary. You know, cage is sort of a way of organizing that vocabulary across the fretboard. But none of it automatically teaches you how to speak. If we don't start tackling this early in the pentatonic area of our improvisational journey, more actually makes it a little bit more difficult. To just go back to this pentatonic, you know, if I have those really boring runs, not really saying much of anything. I'm going to take that same scale. I'm actually going to use a smaller part of that scale, and I'm going to create something that has a little bit of language. There's motif. It's going to build off of each other, and it's going to sound so much better, I mean, whether you like the example or not, but this is going to be so much further along in an improvisational fluency direction than what I just played, not using that many more notes, you know? Definitely some motif that you can hear, like building off of each other. A little bit of call and response, not really giving that that root note away until the end. There, you know, some staccato, you know, in there, kind of playing off the how the voice, almost like the human voice actually sounds, rather than just stale. It's not really how we speak, saying everything the same. And once we start to learn this fluency, we're saying something, so then we can express what it is that we're saying the way that we want to. If we don't know the language part of it and we're just stacking information, it's going to come out real bland, like I'm just sort of monotone and speaking in not part of my voice. It's going to sound really, really boring. See a little bit of that language pop out in there, but it's hard to identify. You're not really like identifying the words, but they do start feeling good. I mean, this is why, you know, if I do like a blues, most people will they'll keep playing that root. They don't know why yet. They don't know that that's the root note of the pentatonic scale. This is a little bit earlier in the journey, but they're their ear keeps, oh, that sounds nice. You know, they haven't learned the tension, the resolution, you know, any of the sort of like exposition notes, you know. They're just, that's where their ear goes. They're starting to uncover the language, but nobody's telling them, you know, what that language means, and they're not able to take it to the rest of the scale, the rest of the positions of the scale, to the major pentatonic, to the blues, to the major blues, to all of the modes, to jazz enclosures, to, you know, your diminished scales, your whole tone, whatever, however advanced you want that theory to go. If we can start understanding and uncovering the linguistic meaning early on, then we're giving meaning to everything that we're learning instead of getting stuck. If I can't just do with the minor pentatonic, something very, very simple, but I'm saying something. When I start adding Dorian, I'm actually getting a little overloaded, a little bit more overloaded, and with information, trying to control it when I can't control something that's much, much smaller. Great, Rye. What do I do with it? Let's just take a lick, you know? And if I have, I want to do a call and response. I do that a lot in my videos, but it's the best way to emotionally attach to something. So if I play something really easy, okay, there's my call. I'm ending on that flat 3 of the minor pentatonic. That's going to give me a little bit of that pull. I can do the same exact lick and end on my root note, and that'll resolve. Well, okay, but that still sounds boring. Okay, well, let's start really messing with this rhythm, and how much can I change? I know what this means now. I know that I have a call and response. Can you hear it? Can you hear that pull? I changed that lick a little bit. Okay, can I hear the pull and then the resolve? Well, what if I want to play that call and then my response? It still means the same thing, but I'm starting to add more rhythm. I'm starting to add more language to it because I know what it means. I know it's a call, and I know it's a response. I know it's a tension and resolution. If you pick all around the neck a lick that ends in a flat 3 or a flat 7, look at the spelling of the minor pentatonic if you're not sure what those are. If you pick a lick that ends in a flat 3 or a flat 7, that's your tension. Play the same exact lick. That's going to develop our motif because it's the same lick. You're just adding a root note in there. Cool. Same thing. Resolve. Same lick. First one ended on a flat 3. Next one ended on that flat 3. I just added that root note at the end to resolve it. How many ways can you manipulate that? You know? Now those two are very interesting. They're not directly repeating each other. The beginning phrases were repeating, and then the second one was a little bit shorter. I'm manipulating them based off of each other. I'm telling a story. The number one way to never get lost and start playing really boring solos is always remember and consider what it is that you just played. So you're always going to remember if you have to play the same lick. This helps us develop motif. Believe it or not, when you hear somebody playing and they do, that's not just a rambling in the blues scale. That is playing off of what they were just playing, or playing off of what I was just playing, and moving pretty quickly from phrase into phrase into phrase. No real pause, almost like when you hear somebody speak in another language and you don't know where those sentences end and it just sounds like they're rambling. That's what's happening there. That's building this exact mechanism. And that's why what I just played sounds more interesting than... It's just not even close. Now, we're doing a lot with a little because we don't want the fretboard to just be looking like a bunch of patterns or dots on diagrams and you're trying to figure it out. We want to make it a little bit more linguistic, right? How can I use my chord tones? How can I build tension? where does this phrase want to go? You know, maybe if I play that first phrase, if I have my solo or my rhythm, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it wants to go to that 4, and then back to my tension, and then a resolve, right? If I can really, really hear and get a response out of those, where do these phrases want to go? Can I repeat the idea? There's nothing worth repeating here, you know? Right? If I have tension, can I answer it, right? How do I create that movement? Where do I want to resolve? That's where the fretboard, like we were saying, isn't just patterns anymore, but it becomes connected in a musical environment. The theory isn't the problem, right? Because obviously I'm a huge theory nerd, and the Fretboard Fluency mentorship program goes through like some pretty heavy theory stuff. But we want to make sure that we're using that theory to express something and not just stacking intellectually something on top of each other, you know, like the modes and the this and the that, right? That's not as important as being able to express with just the pentatonic, all positions of the pentatonic, major, minor pentatonic, major, minor blues, modes, getting modal, you know, all the way into Phrygian dominant and all that, you know, all that really, you know, jazz enclosures and really, really fun stuff there. So my friends, you're probably way closer than you think, because at least you can hear the music and other guitar player solos, and you can start to relate to it with the little framework that I gave you. You know what we did with just one phrase, right? You can do with multiple phrases and make it longer and start taking it into your modes, you know? So I think that you're probably, if you're watching this till the end, you're much closer than you think. And really messing with not just connecting the fretboard, but developing the ideas, the rhythm, the tension, the resolution, the phrasing, you know, and sort of hearing something before it's happening, you know, and having the fretboard available to make those sort of musical expressions. So that's what I teach in my Fretboard Fluency mentorship program, is exactly this, from the pentatonic all the way through your journey. So if this resonates with you, you've made it to the end, which I really, really appreciate. But if this does resonate with you, I put together a free training, a framework, right, that I call 3 Steps to Full Fretboard Fluency. I break down why so many people get stuck in these exact plateaus, right? We all do. And 3 things that you can do right away to start making your guitar solos more expressive and closing that gap between your creative ideas and what you want to play. If you want to check that out, that is in the description and the first comment. I appreciate you staying till the end, and I will see you in the next video.